If there were a Nerd It Through the Grapevine movie, who would play us in the movie?
That's a hard one.
I know. I want to say Ryan Reynolds for myself because I've been told by strangers, and I completely disagree with this 100%. But enough strangers have told me that I look like a bald version of a great value Ryan Reynolds, and I don't agree with it, but it's a really good compliment, and I would like that, but it's probably more along the lines of like an Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
I think she would play me better than Ryan would. I think it would line up more.
I've got a hard time picking out somebody for me because it's Jack Black, pretty heavy on that idea of being Jack Black. You know, I can't.
I'll fight you for that, Jack Black.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Actually, Jack Black might play me well, too, now that I think about it.
I don't think Jack Black would play you that
No,
well.
I don't. Well, if you two get to be Jack Black, so do I. Tiny, who would be you?
I don't know. I need somebody strong and powerful
Okay.
and sassy
Right.
and beautiful.
Okay.
Queen Latifah, all the way, just straight up.
Well, if we're casting female characters, I'm going Kathy Bates.
I can think of nobody more sassy and strong than Queen Latifah.
That is really good.
Her name is Queen. Okay.
Yas Queen. Slay. Tiny.
Exactly.
Marcus, if
Aubrey Plaza.
Aubrey Plaza?
Yes!
Perfect.
The melancholy
Perfect.
Oh, this sucks. I told you ahead of time it was going to suck.
Oh, this is perfect. So I think Jack Black could play us all as male character, and then these beautiful, amazing, talented women could play us in the all-female cast.
I'm pretty sure they would just give it to Zach Galifianakis for me. I've heard that way too many times in my life
see
to
that. I
not
can
take
see
it
that.
seriously,
So you give up the Jack Black role.
I guess. But to have both in that same movie would be really good. Actually, what we need is just Jack Black to play all of us Medea style. Like, he just needs to have his own movies where he does all the characters, kind of like Eddie Murphy used to do, kind of like Tyler Perry does. I would love that. He just needs to have his own genre of films.
So this is Jack Black presents Tyler Perry's Nerd It Through the Grapevine.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dane Holland. That will be played by Anne Hathaway.
I'm Austin Shazam Pfeiffer. That will be played by Kathy Bates.
I'm Marcus. I am Electric Man, played by Aubrey.
And I'm Austin Tiny Zent, also known as Queen Latifah.
Yas Queen. And this is Nerd It Through the Grapevine, the podcast where four best friends gather weekly to talk about our favorite parts of past, present, and future nerd culture. And recently there's been a stink. A paranormal stink in the world of television and movies. And we've been involved with one of those stinks here lately, but we'll get to that. The most recent stink that's going on is The Witcher and the fact that Henry Cavill will no longer be Geralt of Rivia, and it will instead be not Thor. What's his name? The brother? Liam Neeson.
Boo.
No.
Hemsworth.
Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah, Daddy.
Liam Hemsworth will be playing Geralt of Rivia now instead of Henry Cavill. And apparently that is because the writers for the show of The Witcher have strayed so far from the source material, being both the books or the game, that Henry Cavill loves so much, both of those things, that he can't do it anymore. He was like, I'm out. And the news also recently of him returning as Superman in the DC Cinematic Universe, which, yay, for me at least, they've probably been like, here's enough money that no matter what happens with your contract with The Witcher, you're going to want to get out of it because here's Superman again.
Yeah.
So his reason for leaving is their deviation from the source material?
Correct.
Then I
Is
give
that
him
proven?
mega props for that because
Yeah.
that is awesome.
I think I saw something recently that actually showed that was the reason. I wish I could find that source, but I'll have to look it up. But anyway, everyone that watched the second season and then is at least a fan of the source material in the video games, I heard a lot of they didn't like it. They fell off pretty quickly because a lot of people really enjoyed the first season. It was kind of one of those, for me, it was very Game of Thrones worthy of, this week in The Witcher, and getting to talk about it with people and be excited to sit down to watch it, which there aren't a lot of shows that do that for me. But it was what kind of replaced Game of Thrones for me because I love the setting, I love the characters, and I love the story. And I still liked the second season. I didn't like it as much as the first, but come to find out, a lot of people didn't like the second season because of that, and I guess apparently Henry Cavill.
I think that Henry Cavill is a very good person as far as I always say, he is one of us. He is just a nerd who's made it into some stardom to where he gets to be a nerd. So, I mean, this dude is playing characters from video games and making, choices for artistic creativity in the way that he's going to represent those characters appropriately. I mean, with him coming back to play Superman as well, he's also talking about the things he wants to bring into Superman's writing. Like he wants to have more artistic creativity with the Superman character as well, just because he wants to be able to bring justice to those characters instead of like, oh, here's whatever it ends up being, because that's what flopped the Justice League movie before the Snyder Cut.
And I think that that there was a quote from Henry Cavill that I think led a lot of people to feeling like this is finally why he left the show, and I will read that quote now. "The toughest part for me was finding that balance between the showrunner's vision and my love for the books and trying to bring that Geralt to the showrunner's vision. It's about treading a fine line there. It's the showrunner's story, and so it's an adaptation. The tricky part for me was finding Geralt from the book's place within that and being able to serve both as much as I could. The things that I pushed for, it was not necessarily just more dialogue. It was bringing a more book-accurate Geralt to the screen. All of my asks and requests were along the lines of just being faithful to the source material." So like he's voiced that he wanted that version of the character and he was trying to input that into the character, but who knows how much of that he actually got to do. I don't know, but that is, I think that right there is why people believe that that's why he did that. So, but
yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, and I find it kind of rude, but in my head, that's what Liam Hemsworth is not Thor.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I see it in my head too, just for how popular that Thor has become and Chris Hemsworth's portrayal of that character.
Listen, nothing against the guy, right? I mean, sure, he'd be fine, but you just can't replace a statuesque, literal god on the screen. Like, whatever you think about the guy, he has this look about him, right? Cavill. And it'd be like somebody stepping in and saying, "Hey, I'm going to play Han Solo," or "Hey, I'm going to play Wolverine," like after Hugh Jackman. You just can't do it.
Yeah, and I mean, he's like he is what you said, statuesque. Like the guy looks like just what your head canon for masculine would look like, but then his presentation of himself and the way that he carries himself isn't that rough edge, hardcore, like douche bro that typically goes along with like I'm a jacked individual. He's just a calm, cool, collective nerd that just so happens to be gifted genetically enough to be able to work out and exercise and look like this.
So basically, he's the exact opposite of us.
We could try. Do we even try?
But we don't have those genes. Those genes are God.
Well,
they're Lee dungarees.
I do. I bought mine at Goodwill for like $4.
They would be very loose on Dane. They'd be too tight on me. Tiny would get one leg in them. And I don't know about where you're sitting.
Marcus
but
might could fit.
Yeah, you might fit in his pants.
Doubtful.
We'd all want to be in them, though. I think we can agree on that. We all went in his pants.
It's for science.
For science, exactly.
Not passion, I swear.
I think he did a really good job in the role. I was not a fan of the first season. The second season was a little bit better, but without that foundation of the first season, I feel like I just didn't care that much. But the crux of the story, like the big part of the story for me that worked was him and Ciri. Everything else just kind of felt like somebody's random D&D adventure or something. But when it was him and her, like that story made sense. It was a bit, cliche or, it's been done, but still it worked. But now it's just like in this age of factory filmmaking that we live in, a lot of actors get kind of shit on because they didn't do a great job or because the show sucked. But really, I think we need to blame the writers more.
Oh yeah,
because
Absolutely.
of things like that. They don't give Henry Cavill, they don't let him do his job, an actor's job. And I don't know anything about it. I just watch this stuff and enjoy it. But it seems to me that an actor's job is to like you said, Austin, really get in there and like try to portray this character accurately and make choices. So I don't know, if they're not letting him do that, then it's not really his fault.
Yeah, it's almost like they made his work so unhospitable for him in that sense that he had no choice but to leave it. And we've all been placed with situations like that to where there's something that's definitely not
Right, and
benefiting our lives, and we've dedicated so much time to it, and it's either we sit and we fight and we try to make it work, or we accept the fact that we need to move on and we seek other.
And we seek another $1 billion contract.
I can't really relate to him on that kind of thing. But at the same time, you look back into like Brandon Routh's Superman from Superman Returns.
Mm-hmm.
He was not a bad casting for Superman.
No, not at all. He had the look, and he sounded like him, and his Clark Kent looked great.
Yes, he was. I thought he was incredible, but the writing is what murdered his Superman.
Like Galadriel. Everybody's kind of like crapping on her, like, oh, she was terrible. It's like, yeah, she wasn't that great, but is that because the writing was atrocious? Or is that because I think she has the right look for sure for like a younger Galadriel?
Yeah, she was the most elvish-looking elf in the whole show. All the other ones just look like people with pointy ears, but she actually had an elvish, like, mystical, glow about her.
Right, and then we have Reva not too long ago, where everybody was trashing her as being a terrible actress, but she just didn't have anything to go on. It's really not her fault that they wrote a trash part for her.
Right. Yeah, the character, the dialogue fell flat. Like, every single bit of dialogue fell flat for both Galadriel and for Reva. And those are perfect examples of it doesn't matter how good the actor is in that situation or who was cast for the role. If you're having to go by the lines you're given and the direction you're given, like, you can only do so well. And with Geralt and Henry Cavill playing that character, he kind of breaks that, though, because he loves that character so much that he can still bring at least some life to the character as what we've seen in the books and the movies because of how much he loves that character. He's like, I want to be Geralt, so I'm going to be Geralt. So no matter what lines they give him, he's such a big nerd and such a big fan of that character that he can make it work within himself. But everything that happens around him could be absolute hot, stinking fecal garbage. And he's the one piece in the middle of it that's making it work. But that's a heavy load to be put on somebody, no matter how much he can lift. Like, he can only do so much. And I think with the end of the show,
unless he's Superman, then he can do anything.
Then, yeah, and if he's Superman, just whatever, do it all. But I think whenever like the complete information, which who knows if he'll ever actually say this is 100% why I left the show. But there's so much speculation from who he is and how he spoke about how he's trying to put the real, quote unquote, real Geralt into the show, and how even other fans that love it, like, know that was taken away. That wasn't being something he could do.
Plus, he's been very protective of fans as well in this, like, kind of harsh media environment that we are all in now. Because, like, there's always the excess media, like, writing these things, like, oh, well, Star Wars fans are all terrible people and blah, blah, blah. But he's just like, fans deserve their opinion. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of been on the fan side in all that chaos too, but yet stayed, true to himself and not been too controversial at the same time. So I appreciate that from him. Like, hey, don't just trash the fans. Those are the people that are buying your products.
Right. And also, it's a good thing that he's not exactly trashing the show outwardly, too, because there's a lot of other actors that are stuck there because they're not Henry Cavill. They can't just say, okay, I'm out. I'm going to go do another role. The actress that plays Yennefer, I don't think I've really seen her in anything else that comes to mind, but I don't know how she feels about the show, how she feels about the source material. I think her portrayal of the character is pretty good, but she can't just up and go and pick up a leading role in the DC universe or Marvel universe or the movies that are making billions of dollars. She can't just up and leave. So he's not going to openly trash that show and get everyone to jump ship because he knows that there are other people that their livelihoods are kind of riding on this thing. And I like you said, I like that about him as a person, because there are plenty of people because nerds are passionate. We are very passionate. We're so passionate, we started a podcast where we could just talk to each other every week and for random people to listen to us bitch and complain about a lot of stuff.
Exactly. We're forcing them to be our friends.
Yes, we are. Exactly. And with him being one of us, being a nerd, it takes a lot of strength and a lot of character to just quietly do your thing and bounce off of a show. And for it being one of Netflix's, I'm pretty sure most watched shows whenever it comes out, even in the second season that people weren't loving as much as the first, I would say a lot of fans, but a lot of people still enjoyed it. He could easily tank that completely and get everybody off board by telling everybody how awful it was. Think about Game of Thrones. During those last couple seasons, we didn't get a lot of characters trashing it, but we see some like behind the scenes stuff from that last season of Game of Thrones, or the last two seasons, to where they're in the writer's room, or the round table where they're all talking, they're all saying their lines.
Table read.
Thank you. And in the table read, when you're watching the video, you're seeing these actors and actresses. Some of them are like rolling their eyes and like sitting back in their chair. Like, instead of, oh no, I can't believe this is happening, this is crazy, it's, I can't believe you're making this decision for this character. It's absurd. And these people have played those characters for years.
And probably after delivering like 12 awful lines like in a row, and then this happening.
Yes. And they know it's their job. And if they carry out these roles and carry out these lines, it looks bad on them, because not everyone can separate the actor from the role and from what's the dialogue that's given to them and the story that's given to them to play. And that's got to be hard on them, like, to know that you're about to tank your job because you're being made to tank your job. But like I said earlier, they don't all have the choice to just up and go.
Yeah, and part of it is them not wanting to work together as a team and listen to each other. I mean, just like this podcast, we've gone through some changes and done some things a little differently. We sit down, we talk as a team, we decide what's best for us to make our product better. And I feel like a lot of times these big things like Game of Thrones, for instance, they just don't do that. Mm-hmm. And so when the actor goes, hey, this is wrong, this is not what the character would do, or this deviates from the source material, they're just like, nah, trust me, we're going to make money at this. What you have to say, and this character that you've brought to life, it doesn't mean anything. Just don't worry about it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, and that'd be hurtful. I mean, also Ryan Reynolds got the short end of the stick whenever it came to playing, Hal Jordan in the Green Lantern movie, because that movie itself felt to two different things: bad, overly done CGI work on everything. It was just green everything, and also bad script writing and not giving him the proper, nudge in the direction he needed to be that character. He could have fit the sarcastic Hal Jordan good character like that, but he came off a lot more slapstick, and that really didn't work.
So just talking about Henry Cavill brings me to a couple of things. First of all, we also mentioned Game of Thrones, so we have to mention that, because you said, giving these characters ending, making these choices for these characters, these terrible choices, like literally Kit Harington and his buddy were like, hey, let's write a better ending for Jon Snow, and let's pitch it to HBO, and now that's one of the shows in development that we've talked about before. Also, Henry Cavill is rumored to be being cast in House of the Dragon Season 2, along with Elizabeth Olsen.
Really? Both of them? Dang.
Yeah, well, and it's rumored, and I've seen them on the red carpet like, I don't know, I've not heard anything about it, but it'd be awesome. You know, and so we live in that day now where those kinds of things can be influential, but I just think that would be really cool. I think those would be two really good castings for somebody in Westeros, but at the same time, I don't want to waste Henry Cavill on House of the Dragon. As good as it's been, he needs his own show if he's going to be a character in there. He could be Rhaegar. I think he would be a really awesome Rhaegar Targaryen.
Well, and we have a situation, for me at least, to where he was so influential and the Geralt. Like, he was Geralt to me. And watching him in that, and then putting the same actor in the world of Game of Thrones, which is also a similar kind of setting from The Witcher, it's too close to me. Like, when I see a white-haired Henry Cavill with a sword and armor, I see Geralt. And no matter how many times you tell me he's Targaryen or whatever, like I just see Geralt. He did. It was too good. He did too good of a job, and the show is too popular. But I mean, now he's not Geralt in the show, and if he does become someone in House of the Dragon, it's gonna be strange. It'll be easier since there'll be somebody, a Hemsworth taking over the role of Geralt, but it's weird whenever somebody has played a role that's so close to that as far as looks go, because the characters themselves completely different. I'm sure once he reads off a couple lines of dialogue, it'll be like, okay, this is nowhere close to Geralt. He just kind of looks like him.
Yeah, well, I'll admit I just prefer George Martin, his world and his writing, but as I said, he could be, because we've seen him in that wig, and so we know he would look good as a Targaryen, and so it just makes me excited. But I see what you're saying, and but what if he was like a darker haired character? Like, because there are some darker haired Targaryens, there are some like Targaryen civil wars that happen after House of the Dragon that he could be main characters in, or just another awesome. I could think of several cool characters that he could play in that world.
But you're right. How do you just put Henry Cavill in just almost a side role, or even like a leading role in the show, but not the lead? Like you said, he needs
that's
a
what I'm
show.
saying. I'm saying a whole new show. He needs his own show.
Which Matt Smith is kind of doing this with Damon in the show. He's being so incredible as this character. Anytime he's on scene, you kind of lean forward and you want to listen to every word he says, every action he does. He's worthy of being in almost every scene just because of how well he's done that character. And not to talk, down for about anybody else, because everybody else on that show, it's cast incredibly well. They did such a good job. But whenever a character delivers that version so well, or an actor delivers that version of the character so well, you just want more. And it feels kind of greedy, like sometimes, to where I want Damon all the time. Would that take away the potency of that character if I just want him all the time? Possibly. But I don't know. When you're an actor and you've been cast in this role and you do so well at it, fans are going to want more.
I know for a fact that at least one of our listeners refers to him as Dragon Daddy. So,
sorry, Tiny, you've been dethroned as Dragon Daddy.
I prefer the term bad dragon, but
Okay,
whatever.
well, yeah, we can go with that.
Oh my
Batty
God,
Dragon. Yeah.
that's such a throwback.
This is bad dragon.
I forgot.
That's also my call sign on Phasmo. Just throwing that out there.
So good.
But there's definitely still plenty more for Damon to do. Like, as someone who has a vague idea of what's going on in the source material, like there's lots more cool stuff for Damon to do for sure.
I can't wait for that. I cannot wait.
The Rock also has done a great job here recently, and I think that's, I think he may have accomplished what he wanted to. So far the numbers are still going up. He's gone kind of unchallenged for big movies being in the theaters at the same time as Black Adam. So this is being, kind of, I don't know. He's gone unchallenged, unopposed, and the Black Adam's been number one in the theater box office sales for the past 3 weeks now. And it's kind of crazy to think that movie that I was willing to just take a giant shit on and eat my crock if it was any good won me over enough to believe that it can build something off of that style of movie and that universe setting that they've got. And bringing back Henry Cavill's great. The Rock did a great job. He's one of the only ones that plays a superhero in this whole mythos of superhero movies that we get now from everywhere that didn't have suit padding, because he is The Rock. Of course, if you padded his suit, what the hell would you be looking at?
Yeah.
Like
He already looks I don't even know how to describe what the man looks like.
He's a statue. He's the idea
He's
of
literally
power.
superhuman.
Yeah.
so.
I'm just noticing that I see 2 fully intact Crocs, sir.
Yeah, I thought the vote was
thought
for
you was
A1 sauce.
Yeah, cut off part of one of the straps and go ahead and eat it right now.
I'm actually waiting on the request for my from my wife to my mother to get us one of those Drew Barrymore air fryers that has the dehydration setting on there, and I was going to put my Croc strap in there to
Make some jerky,
make
some crock jerky?
Yeah, some crock jerky, and then I could flavor it up with some A1 because the majority from both Facebook and Twitter overruled the Twitter poll. The Twitter poll said nacho cheese sauce, but the overall arcing consensus is A1 sauce.
I see.
Yeah, that's because nacho cheese sauce is not a steak sauce.
They voted it. I have to acknowledge
It's a sauce, but not a steak sauce. And you stacked it to where they couldn't vote for anything else.
I even gave them the opportunity to write in a ballot. Okay?
I feel like you didn't.
I'm fair. I'm better than the U.S. government because I would have at least acknowledged those write-in ballots.
I have not been on Elon's Twitter because I've never Twittered. So, well, I've Twittered maybe once. However, I don't remember what I was saying.
That's
now.
very fine. The Black Adam movie, though, it did a really good job of establishing that universe, and I really enjoy what's going on in it. I would like to see another actor from that same Snyderverse, even though I don't think the Snyderverse is going to carry forward, but I think that the same characters that were created in it can carry forward. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Just as long as they've got her theme going along with it, because they removed most of that from Wonder Woman 84. And regardless of plot holes and kind of crappy spots in the movie, if they had more of that, I would have probably ate it up. You know, it's just such a badass theme from the original Wonder Woman movie and from Batman versus Superman that goes along with her. That just fits her character as well. And that's the same reason why Henry Cavill I can't spoil things.
No, you can't.
Oh my God.
You can't spoil because I haven't watched Black Adam yet because we shit on Black Adam so much before it even came out. I like to think that we were able to say enough. We don't know yet for sure, but this is what we feel and think.
Yeah.
And I hope we weren't just absolute about what our judgment of that. But the reason we were shitting on it so much is because of the casting choice in being The Rock and how we didn't feel like that matched up well with source material that we've read in the past. But apparently, like from your review, The Rock is such a good actor and got himself so involved with the role that he was able to pull it off.
It was a very good mix. I mean, the things that I had the preemptive bitchings about being his accent and why he does not speak in an accent in any of the stuff that I've accidentally heard before I saw the movie, because you watch any movie in the theaters and there's a trailer, you can't just fully cup your ears. But it's just, that was one of my main bitchings. The other thing was the kind of the look of it. He didn't have the pointy ears. He didn't have the hair. You know, is it just going to be The Rock in a Black Adam suit? Yes and no. And it works though. And I really enjoyed it. The backstory that was given to how he got his powers differs from anything that ever happened in the comic books, and I support that.
That's crazy.
Because that's not a nerd thing to do, boys, is to go like, oh, you're different than what any of the source materials ever said about where you got the origin of these powers. I like it.
It actually improved upon the story.
Exactly. It made him a more relatable character in regards to why he and Shazam could actually end up working together.
Well, that's cool.
Because I could, once anybody else on this podcast sees it, we'll talk about it, but I'm not going to be able to spoil it. But I've got ideas and I've got things boiling inside of my skull now from it. Ben Affleck as Batman in the Snyder area. I liked Pattinson's Batman a lot, but I liked Affleck's Batman even more. I thought he was more of a powerhouse Batman. I thought he was that brutal punishment style Batman, almost
He's the
like
older Batman, the more experienced Batman.
Yes. The DC universe is it's going to be featuring two different Batman though, because I know there's footage out there that was filmed for Michael Keaton's Batman. Because the internet tells me things, but there's a potential for it to be in future movies. The same thing with Ben Affleck's Batman also being in these future movies. I liked Ben Affleck a lot as Batman. He's my number 2 Batman.
Best Batman.
I can agree with that. Best Batman we've got now, but he's right underneath the Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batman
because of your nostalgia factor to that. It holds a lot,
but it really does. But it holds up to what I've seen on screen, because you've gotten like 4 major Batmen on screen that were okay. I mean, you've got Val Kilmer, he was just okay.
He's fine.
George Clooney was not okay.
No,
he was the second best Batman.
That was
oh my God.
That was another situation of writing being able to tank a character no matter what George did, but he wasn't Batman.
No, and they made that movie to sell toys.
And nipples.
That's what they did. They made that.
And that song.
Oh, no, that was off of Batman Forever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Kiss from a
thought-
Rose.
No, I thought Clooney was in the one with Kiss from a Rose.
No, Val Kilmer was.
Oh, my bad.
And then you've got, Christian Bale. I thought he was just okay.
It was fine.
I'm sorry, but Christian Bale's Batman was just okay.
Worst Batmobile.
The Pattinson Batmobile is so
It was awesome.
good. That was a casting in itself.
Yes.
The writers casted a vehicle to be the Batmobile, and it was scary.
Yeah, it was true to the source material because that was one of the early Batmobiles. It took way too long to actually show it built. You saw its bits and bobs everywhere, but like most of the movie, you're like, I want to see this Batmobile, man.
Yeah.
Then you finally see it, and it's like, yeah.
It's worth the wait. Just
I mean,
Terrifying.
it was dope.
It was so scary. I didn't know you could make a vehicle scary.
the
and they
chase.
did it.
The chase scene, like the car chase scene, was actually something worth watching.
If you haven't seen the Batman do
I
it,
threw my panties at the screen.
Also, real quick before we get too far ahead of ourselves here, I had a funny joke that I needed to tell you all. That's that's revolving around something like this because we said car chase scene, and the new Fast and the Furious movie, Fast 10, is coming out.
They're making another one?
Yes, sir.
Fast 10 your
Jesus
seatbelt.
That's exactly what I'm
Christ.
saying. They're missing out on the opportunity for great merchandising for just having Fast 10, your seatbelts. So if they don't claim it, we can get ready for the movie by claiming it as our own podcast
I feel like
slogan.
the police department will be using that and putting that on a billboard with a picture of Ben.
Think about your families. Fast 10, your seatbelts.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Be like the worst collaborative advertising campaign ever.
what's funny is I haven't even heard you make that joke, but it's too perfect to not even think of.
It needs to exist because literally with a movie being called Fast 10 and you have to fast 10 your seatbelt. See, we explained it. What do you think, Marcus?
Just shrugged his shoulders.
I saw this tiny little man on a computer screen just shrug his shoulders in disapproval. Is it too punny? Too close to a play on words?
I'm just not that easily amused, I don't think.
I hate you. Damn.
Superheroes. The age of the superhero movie is now. As we were growing up, we did get some, mainly the Batman, and there are some Superman movies that predate us.
And Blade.
And Blade, thanks. But
Hey, Blade 1 was good.
Blade 1 was good. And they were sprinkled around when we were younger, but we mainly got cartoon versions of these things. And before all that was just comic books. So these castings of these superheroes are kind of hard to deviate from. And I think that's going to be a difficult thing to pull off, especially if there's not a lot of time in between the films. Like with Batman, we've had a lot of Batman within the last 15 years. A few, maybe that's the right timeline. I don't know. Time is just an idea at this point. I don't even know.
That is a very well-used couch.
In the last 34 years.
Last 34 years, we've had all these different Batman.
All the Batman that I've mentioned have been in the last 34 years. Batman with the original Michael Keaton movie is referred to in canon as Batman 89.
And I feel like they would have recast Superman from Henry Cavill's Superman if more time had gone by from him being Man of Steel and the most recent one being Justice League that he, I don't want to spoil anything, but
Spoiler fart. Potential.
He's in Black Adam. But yeah, I know. But we think of, especially with Marcus, Wolverine, Hugh Jackman being Wolverine. That casting was so good that even in the terrible Wolverine movie, what was that with the Silver Samurai and stuff? I don't know.
No, that was
Garbo.
That was the Wolverine.
That wasn't that bad. But you're thinking of X-Men Origins.
Origins, that was the
Yeah,
bad one?
Origins.
Okay. Well, but he was still a good Wolverine. Like the story around him, like the writing was hot, stinking, fecal garbage, but like him being Wolverine, he's just so Wolverine that you can look past a lot of the stuff and still enjoy him being the character.
Well, the Wolverine Origins comic book really inspired that production of the movie, and that was really cool to see on screen. But up and halfway through the movie, it is now lost from the subject material whatsoever, and it's into its own little thing that is just you treading through knee deep shit, hoping you don't get to stink on you.
Right.
It's not happening. It's awful, and I feel bad, really bad, for any actor having to play Wolverine in the future to try to meet up to the now, I think, 9 movies that Hugh Jackman has portrayed Wolverine in.
Is that counting the upcoming Deadpool
Yes.
movie? Okay,
Yes.
because that brings another point for Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool, because that casting of that character, another character that the actor themselves has a very precious relationship with. Like, Ryan Reynolds loves Deadpool, and he is the on-screen Deadpool. He's been too perfect as the character. Recasting that character seems impossible to me, at least for a long period of time. Like, you need a gap of years and years until you can recast that character because of how perfectly he's done it. And he has personally has gotten Hugh Jackman to return as Wolverine in Deadpool 3. And they made an announcement together, and it was really funny, and he knew how big of a deal it was. But they're friends in real life. And without the casting of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, we would not be getting Hugh Jackman as Wolverine again.
Yeah.
Like, that casting choice has led to this happening. And the same thing happened with Black Adam. The casting of The Rock, like you said, Dwayne Johnson's wife is Henry Cavill's agent.
Yes.
Like, that relationship, because of that casting of Black Adam, that could single-handedly be the reason that Henry Cavill can return as Superman.
Yeah, it is.
Because of the relationship there. So these casting decisions, it's more than just, does this actor or actress look like this character? It goes so far beyond that you don't realize how much power this person is going to have as the character in this universe.
Because you've got The Rock portraying Black Adam and bringing this passion and this drive and this power. And
does he say hungry and devour?
Yes, of course he does.
I can't help but my brain go there. But I mean, he brings this extra bit to the drive behind the character. He brings this extra bit into pushing for this character to be a more successful, bigger superhero franchise than what the movies have been capable of being before. And also, he's got the writing say so to be able to bring in artistic notes from the actors, like what Henry Cavill would be doing for Superman, because he's, as I said, one of us. He wants to portray Superman in the best way he can, and he wants that hope. He wants to bring back joy. He wants that character to be a shining light in the DC universe that he's not gotten to be before, and he's been in the workings to become that, but it's never been like this, there he is. There's Superman. There's hope. We've not gotten to see that. And he wants that. And
he's been quoted saying this too, to get people excited for this new. It's the same Superman he was before, but it's in a hopeful manner. It's the Superman we love from comics, and finally being put to the screen in this, beyond the Snyderverse.
And aside from the being jacked and multimillionaire and Hollywood actor and star and recognizable by 3/4 of the populace, what we share in common with him is that we are spitting ideas of what we'd like to see in future movies, spitting ideas into what we'd like to, it'd be really great if we saw this, this, and this. The only difference is, besides those things that I said, is also that somebody gives a shit and will do what he says, right, because they take him seriously about it. Mm-hmm. And I love that, because he's even been talking scenarios with people in interviews now. Like, what do you think would be a great way for Superman to come back? And he was talking about how it doesn't need to be right after Zack Snyder's Justice League. He said it doesn't need to take place directly after that. Mm-hmm. He said leave some time gap in there. Leave some stuff that's unfilled, because that these characters have stories. Everybody's got their own story happening between these events that are meeting up in the Justice League. He's like, everybody's got their own stories going on. Leave some time gap and leave something to happen in between there, and now they've got to come back together. He said if they want to do it that way. He said same thing with Man of Steel 2. He said let that be after, not directly after, but it has to be years in advance. Like not advance, but years post.
And just like pure speculation, just like pretty much what people have broken down as to why he left The Witcher, it sounds like DC could have used that as an incentive to come play Superman. Because they have been hearing the rumors of him not being happy as The Witcher because of the writing and him not being able to bring the character he knows and loves to screen. I would think that would be part of them going, okay, they're not letting you do this, but we will, because they've let The Rock do it with Black Adam, and I think that's something that they're going to let Cavill do as Superman. They're going to let him have a little bit of at least say, as far as as long as it's backed up by source material. But I would think, again, speculation, but how wouldn't you use that as a draw to try to get this guy back that a lot of people are clamoring for him to return? I think that would be a great way to do that. To be like, you're not getting it, but you can get it here.
Tiny, do you have any favorite people that you've seen cast in roles that you absolutely agree that they're there and you're so glad that they were?
That's a very hard question.
It's easier to pick ones that you didn't like.
It is so much easier to pick those. Because sometimes it's hard to separate the actor from the character and the role. I'm stalling for time because I'm just thinking, not coming up with anything.
When I think for you, I think you're the Stephen King guy of our group.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what about for It? Because It's been played by just two
that is
right?
a very good example. Okay, what was the guy's name that played the Pennywise this time?
Bill Skarsgård.
Yes, thank you. I can never remember his name. He did just awesome, in my opinion. It was true to the material as well as a movie adaptation of that book could be, because the book is just the way it's laid out. It's be very hard to do. Tim Curry, he did as good as he could for what he was given. I know people want to say that rendition of It was, that was the best one. These new ones suck. Well, you're objectively wrong. You can love them due to nostalgia and your love of Tim Curry. All that's fine. Objectively, Skarsgård was a better Pennywise.
And I hated Danny DeVito as the Penguin. I just couldn't visualize it. I didn't think he looked creepy enough. I didn't think he looked at all like what the Penguin would look like. I didn't think.
Does it hurt you to lie? Does it hurt you on the inside?
It does.
Because I can see some pain within your stomach.
It's eating me from the inside out. Danny DeVito was the perfect casting for the Penguin. Poor Colin Farrell. Because, I mean,
I thought he did great, though.
Yeah, but
it was a way different Penguin.
It was a way different Penguin.
I remember.
I like Danny DeVito's Penguin that I just need a cool glass of iced water. And just that creepiness that he brought along with it. I mean, I love that sewer-dwelling little munchkin.
And a constant mouthful of black goo.
And I'll never, ever, ever forget that nose bite scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
He said, it could be worse. My nose could be gushing blood. And everybody's just laughing to try to just, make this, like, satiate the room, like, awkward laugh.
Beyond just these, because we've been talking all about live action for all these characters that have been portraying ones from books and comics and things like that. But here coming soon is the Super Mario movie, where Chris Pratt has been cast to play the voice of Mario, which has been announced for a long time. Like, we've known that for a while now. But there's been a lot of stink about that situation. And I heard so much stink about it that I was like, I'm going to watch the trailer for this, because it's not the kind of movie that I'm going to be feeling, oh no, all this is being spoiled for me.
You watched the trailer for it?
Yeah, because I don't feel like there's a spoiling for it, and I may not even go to the theater to see it. Like, I want to see it, but it wasn't one that I felt Trailer Free Champion needed to be instituted.
I can't wait to hear it on cassette tape.
One day you will, but there was so much hate for him being Mario, and so going into watching the trailer, I was thinking, wait, I wonder how bad he even shows, himself as this character. And actually, the podcast Space Castle was the one that got me to want to actually watch this trailer, because they did an episode that was mostly about a trailer breakdown for that and how they feel the movie's going to be. And I agree with them in feeling that we only got a couple lines of Chris Pratt as Mario, and it sounds fine. It sounds perfectly fine.
Is it not thick enough stereotypical Italian accent for people?
That's the thing. Do you really want Chris Pratt to imitate a stereotypical Italian voice for a high-pitched Mario?
No.
I mean, that is canonically Mario's voice, though. It's in all the
To
games.
say that's what Mario's always
But
been.
there was an animation of Super Mario back in the day, and he was more of a New Yorker style plumber as opposed to the Italian style version of him. So, and it was popular for its time. I don't even know how many seasons it ran, but I remember watching it. But it seems like they're going more that route with this because they feel like he can get the pitch right. But if you think about I don't remember the actor's name for the voice of Mario in all the Mario video games, but the idea of him through an hour and 45 minutes or whatever of what this movie is going to be, that voice playing Mario would get so irritating that I would not, because all he ever says is, ho, ho, here we go, and things like that in the games. I don't want that voice happening throughout an entire movie.
Y'all remember when you fell asleep in Nintendo 64? I think I've even said this on the show before, but where he says like he literally dreams about spaghetti and lasagna and pizza.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you just go idle on the N64.
Oh, which I guess some people were wanting that in the movie, but would I cast Chris Pratt as Mario? No, but I guess they've got some kind of idea that he's going to do a good job, but we did not get enough sample size from him voicing that character to be like, this is going to be trash or it's going to be good. He barely says 8 words.
Would you not think that Jack Black as Bowser would be a weird thing?
Because of our love for Jack Black and knowing how talented he is, I thought it was a perfect casting when I first heard that he was going to be Bowser. Because that man can play a big, scary voice, energy kind of character. And in that trailer that I saw, like, it was perfect. Like him playing Bowser is going to be perfect because I can just see him in my mind's eye of being in the recording studio and him like morphing his face to look like this big dragon turtle and being Bowser. Marcus right now is doing a perfect impersonation of Jack Black doing a perfect impersonation of Bowser.
I love it.
It's excellent. But that's just like voice actors for games and shows and animation and things like that. That's another realm of casting that has a big factor, and maybe not as much as the live action version.
Well, like James
but
Earl Jones
sometimes.
as Mufasa in Lion King.
I mean, that man's voice is like sweet honey in my ear holes.
Yeah, I mean, it is like a heated up little tub of that honey cinnamon butter from Texas Roadhouse, and it's just delicious and velvety. And it's so much that he's such a perfect casting for Mufasa that they made this entire new live action one. That, well, I say live action, more like realism CGI kind of live action. Yeah, yeah, they got the lions to do voiceovers.
He actually, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you,
You're
but he signed over rights for them to artificially make his voice for future projects like Star Wars and things, so he can always be the voice of Vader.
Yeah, that's good.
And I thought that's awesome because iconically, you think of two things when you think of Vader. You think black helmet and James Earl Jones's voice.
And the the voice of Mufasa carried on to be Mufasa's reincarnation in the movie again. He was James Earl Jones's voice again in the new movie. So it was such a perfect casting. They're like, we're not even going to touch that. We're not touching that iconic voice that should represent Mufasa, that should represent the sound of this voice. And I really liked who was it? That's damn, I'm drawing a blank. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was the perfect Terminator. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you go over to, the voice acting realm, people don't often talk about the casting for like audiobooks and the narrator themselves, because in so many ways, that person reading that book to you can either make or break the entire story, because it might be a very epic story full of a lot of action and stuff. But when you put it through somebody with a very nasally voice that just likes to scream randomly, you're going to hate every second of it. You're not going to care about the book.
That's a great point, because that casting goes beyond even seeing the video game character or the animation in front of the actor's voice or a live action person, you're not seeing anything. So this person is playing the roles most of the time. I mean, there's some like Neil Gaiman's Sandman is completely cast. Like everyone is like, there's a different actor for all these different roles. But in most audiobooks, it's just one person that is basically the cast of all these characters. And if they don't deliver them in a way that you remember either reading the book or if it's your first version of this book ever hearing it, it can make or break it for you, because I see a lot of reviews for books that are like, this book is incredible, the casting is horrible. And if I see that, I'm not going to get that version of that book.
Oh yeah, like good example of this is the Joe Hill book Nosferatu. The story itself is so good. The lady that they have chosen to read it to you is terrible.
Do you remember her name?
And I didn't even want to look it up just because it bothered me so much. She's very Jersey and nasal and just would randomly yell and scream like it was anime.
I will say that, like you're saying, Tiny, it can like really ruin the experience. But at the same time, if you just give it a shot, sometimes you can get used to their narration.
I mean, you can.
I have also like just had you could be reading like this, the author could have like this real serious moment in their head, but then if the voice that they choose to give to that character in that moment, I don't know, just the emotion of books and things, of scenes, can be lost on certain narrators, it seems like.
That's true. Like Andy Serkis, because I have the Andy Serkis versions of the audiobooks of The Lord of the Rings, did an amazing, phenomenal job. Like, he has different voices for all the characters, and since it's a musical, he sings every one of the songs. And
I wouldn't imagine
alone made me get through the difficultness that is Tolkien, because I'm sorry, Marcus, I do not enjoy Tolkien as a writer. It's a wonderful story. I just don't like his writing style.
I don't think you're alone in that. I mean, he was not technically an author. I mean, he is technically an author, but you see what I'm saying? Like, by modern standards, he wasn't following any of the rules that most writers follow when you write a story. You know, he would like literally, like they're in the Council of Elrond scene, and they're all just like, what are we going to do with the MacGuffin, right? But then he's like, so 10,000 years ago, this all stuff happened over here. You know, like a modern writer would never let that happen. Like, he just like will just drop these giant lore bombs on you in the middle of the scene, like an info dump. He basically invented that.
True.
And that seems like a harder job for the narrator to, if a difficultly written work, like being able to deliver that in a way that's, okay, I can listen to this a whole lot easier than I could read it. And that's something for me with the Malazan Book of the Fallen that Marcus has got me head over heels for. That's a 10-book series in the Book of the Fallen. And through the first 3 books of the series, I think it was, the narrator for the audiobooks was the same person. And then it switches over to a different narrator for, I guess, the rest of the book series. And there are so many characters that you get this person who's done for me and my only experience with the books, a really good job of voicing these characters, because I'd never read it before. It was my first experience. That switching over to another casting of that narrator was hard for me at first, but now, after getting almost through 2 books of this narrator, I forgot what the first one sounded like for some of these characters. And that, I think, is a successful job of a recasting of a reader, because we talk about recasting for these characters on TV shows like Cavill in The Witcher and not Thor being the new Witcher. That is the type of move that's going to be a lot harder, I think, to switch over to for viewers than, say, a successful casting for an audiobook. Like, if they do a good enough job and the series is long enough, you're going to forget that the first one was ever there. But it's going to be really hard to forget Cavill was the Witcher after this.
I couldn't imagine Andy Serkis reading Tolkien's work just because there's so many different characters, and I just don't feel like Andy Serkis would be that good at like vocal manipulation to be able to change his voice.
You're doing that thing where you lie again, and it hurts me more than it hurts you, I think.
In case no one knows, this is the voice he used.
So casting has a lot more importance than I think a lot of people even realize that they give it credit for. Because if it's a good enough job of the casting and the writing is good enough too, then it goes a long way. But you have situations to where writing is terrible, but the casting is great. And for a lot of people, The Witcher Season 2, that was the situation. And for Lord of the Rings of Power, definitely the situation there to where the casting is great, but the writing is terrible. But the opposite can be done as well, to where you can have really good writing, but terrible casting for characters. And that can ruin an entire story.
My favorite thing that I've read about the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, consist of the internet comments where people are taking this same approach I have been today with just spewing out what they don't believe whatsoever in the most straightforward fashion. Like, I read a comment talking about how the subject material absolutely shouldn't matter because the writing in the show is so good. It doesn't need it. And it was hilarious. It was funny because the people were doing that literally the same reason I was doing it, just to try to play the...
Oh, just to be a troll?
Just a troll.
Where's your bridge?
And you gotta pay the troll toll.
Hey, man.
So have we talked about characters that were like written specifically for certain castings? Like,
No, I don't know of any off the top of my head that I know for sure. You're about to blow my mind though.
well, I mean, not really. I mean, I've got my own, of course, niche examples. Like most of the characters from Lost were kind of, they were vague ideas for these other survivors and things, but as they audition and things and they need to fill out their cast, there's these actors that really make these impressions on them, and so they kind of start envisioning roles for these actors. So I don't know, sometimes I feel like that could be a good approach. Sometimes if you're writing an original like IP and not writing in like an established IP.
That'd be kind of suck to be one of the guys that are only on there for like 2-3 episodes and you die.
We base this character on your personality.
So you're gonna die in like a week. So
We can't wait to kill you.
exactly.
Rainn Wilson as Dwight Schrute on The Office.
Yeah.
I mean, that character did not start as, the role being written for the actor, but after he took over, he got the role, then that version of Dwight Schrute was what was written for. So he brought that idea of this is the way that I would like Dwight Schrute to be represented, and they ate that up. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely couldn't see anybody else playing the part of Dwight Schrute.
Truth.
And having that type of fluidity as a director, as a writer for one of these original works, like Marcus said, it's not a recreation of like another source material. This is the original work of it. Having that type of fluidity can cause for your work to be so much better if you're able to say, okay, I don't hold this character with so much care that there's nothing you can do to change it. If you give me something better than what I've given you, then by all means, let's go that way. And that's something to where obviously it worked for The Office. I mean, Dwight is the character from The Office. He's the one that stands above all the others. And that's because they wrote it for him beyond that point because of what he was able to do.
Yeah. I mean, just that dry sense of humor, that really, just straightforward way of delivering stuff that's just so absurd. Like, you're trying to have normal conversations about the way that you should run a stock room, and he would come off with just straight farm facts to tell you the way that this wouldn't work on the beet farm because...
Or Belschnickel,
admirable or impish.
Apparently, is it Aubrey Plaza or Audrey Plaza?
No, with a B.
Okay.
Aubrey.
Okay. Apparently her role was written for her on, Parks and Rec?
Oh, hell yeah.
They said that she was the weirdest person that they've ever met.
That's great.
the lesser version of The Office.
Whoa.
Yeah, I went there. Shots were fired.
Hold on. Creed Bratton from The Office was literally Creed Bratton.
True.
Oh, as the person?
No, literally. Like, he wasn't supposed to be a part of the show at all. I forgot all about this.
Yeah.
Creed Bratton in The Office is played by the real man, Creed Bratton, who was a part of a band called Grassroots. this was no joke. He wasn't even supposed to be in the show. They just found him, and they thought that he would fit very well in this specific spot. They wrote him into it. He stayed the whole time.
True.
And then at the last episode, they're like, "Oh yeah, apparently Creed Bratton was a musician or something like that," and and it introduced his real life person into the show as canon.
That's hilarious.
And a lot of people didn't catch that, but that was just literally a character role made for that person because it is him.
Apparently, Nick Fury was drawn in, like Sam was drawn in from all the art and concept art and stuff that they had done before, because they like kind of already had him in mind.
Oh, probably from like the Ultimates and stuff, because if they'd already had him in mind during the Ultimates comics, it would make a whole lot of sense, because the character in the Ultimates comics and the character portrayed in the movies are just like, fingers crossing together, just like in sync.
Right, yeah.
So you're saying
it was
the
Ultimates, yeah.
They originally were just writing that, they were like, we're going to need Nick Fury in this, but we don't know who's going to play him yet, so we're just making all the concept art and stuff, and in the end they're like, wait, this looks like Sam Jackson.
I think it's more like what Austin said. Like the Ultimates comic book was actually written, with Sam L. Jackson in mind, and that eventually is what makes Sam L. Jackson actually want to play him.
That's so cool.
Yeah, Christoph Waltz, the guy in Django and Inglourious Bastards. Apparently, Tarantino wrote his part in Django Unchained specifically for him, with no other actor in mind.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
You just get to know that quality of an actor so well as a director that you're just like, I know they could play this, and I know how they would do. I know how they would want to do it.
Mm-hmm. Like this one person can bring this idea to life.
Yeah,
no one else can fit that except for this one, and hopefully, that always works out for the writer, because man, would it suck to make a main character with this one person in mind, and you pitch it to them and they're like, absolutely not, and then you get not Thor to play.
Well, I'm sure that happens all the time in Hollywood, though.
Oh yeah, it has to.
I would be furious if Chris Hemsworth played Jack Black in my Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny sequel movie. That would just upset me.
Well, I think the casting for Grapes has been pretty spot on for our show. So thank you for making our dreams come true in these roles on Spotify and Good Pods and iTunes and wherever. Just give us 5 stars for the casting that we've done for ourselves, if you don't mind. Even if you didn't like the casting, give 5 stars anyway and tell people why you hated it. And then you can go on to Redbubble and Teespring and give money to Grapes so we can continue acting in our roles by wearing our logo and things on your t-shirts and bodies. Wear us, give us money.
And if you'd like to let us know who you think the perfectly cast role is that you have in your head that has come to fruition on the screen or in writing or in audiobooks or anything like that, who do you think was cast perfectly? You can let us know on our social media platforms by looking up at Nerd Grapevine on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you'd like to donate a little bit to the cause and receive a shiny holographic sticker with the Nerd at the Grapevine logo on there, you can get on Patreon, and you'll also be able to unlock future content that we don't have just openly floating around. And also, just in case you missed out on the joke the entire time because I didn't get to make it, there's also another important part of a cast, and that is to keep your bones aligned once they're broken. So don't forget that.
Oh, a cast joke.
That's also
we really missed that.
That's a very important casting.
We had an hour and still didn't get it.
Yeah, didn't get a bit of
We
it.
also didn't even talk about a casting couch once.
Oh man,
you did.
Oh yeah, I did. Batman. That's a well-used couch.
Yes. So I mean, if you like that joke about casting and setting bones because you love dad jokes, then you'd like it. If you didn't, it might cause your brain to experience a little bit of.
My luck, I would want Queen Latifah to play me, but I'd end up with Pauly Shore, and that would just cause the most discord that I've ever had in my life. You can find us on Discord. There's a link in the description. Tell us who you think could play us in movies and video games. Oh, a video game of us. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be awesome.
Is Pauly Shore even still alive?
Yeah, even though he made a movie, this is Pauly Shore is dead. He's still alive. He's also super old looking.
So Pauly Shore is not dead.
No, he's not. He is not dead.
I for some reason thought Pauly Shore had died.
He has a YouTube channel. Don't watch it. It's terrible.
Okay.
I'm a subscriber. Trust me. There's a link in our description.
To what?
To our Discord. Okay. I've already said it like 3 times.
Did you?
Yeah, it was well masked.
Okay.
We do memes and all kinds of fun stuff. We're on there live, uncut, uncensored, and irrevocably circumcised.
So, Austin, Shazam.
Yeah?
You have been called in to do the voice acting for Sean Connery, who was originally cast as Gandalf, but he came to set drunk every day. And life gives you grapes. What do you do with them?
Well, if you're going to ask me what I'm going to do with the grapes once they get in here, I'm going to wait because they'll turn into wine. And I can keep this buzz going for a little bit longer while I glue this beard onto my face for another 4 hours. Did you know that I am knighted? I am a knighted man, and you're forcing me inside of this stupid costume.
Can I pass? Can I please pass?
Do you feel that, Macleod? It's the quickening.
Supposed to say you shall not pass, but in that voice. See, but you didn't do it. And
You
now
shall
it's
not pass!
There we go.